Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished our NBA basketball coverage, talking a little bit about the Lakers coaching search, that being between JJ Redick and the current head coach for the UConn men's Huskies team, Dan Hurley, trying to lure him into the NBA away from the two-time defending national champions in college basketball. We also talked about the NBA Finals. That starts tonight. I had Celtics in 7. You can hear all about my breakdown for that in the first segment. But we are going to move away from NBA coverage for the rest of the day here, talk a little bit about the NFL. The NFL is starting to wake up again. We had our little off season, and it wasn't much of an off season. There was plenty going on, so much coverage there. But now it's starting to wake up again. Mini camps are coming back. They're starting to creep their way back to the top of the headlines. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. There's potential 18 games that the NFL is talking about moving to. There's some reactions from players, some solutions from players. We'll talk about all of that in just a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all you would like to say, go ahead and throw that in the comments. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate all of you guys for sticking around and talking some sports with me on this beautiful Thursday afternoon here in June. Once again, that link is gsmcpodcast.net. But like I was saying, we are going to jump into some NFL coverage with the potential of an 18-game season. We've talked about it. Sports leagues getting greedy. We've talked about it in the context of a lot of things. 18 games feels like an inevitable thing, though, and it doesn't feel too greedy either. The NFL has set out a very nice plan for 18 games, one that as a fan I am very much in support of. They talk about adding that 18th game, adding a second bye week, and making it so the Super Bowl falls on Memorial Day weekend, or holiday weekend. I forget which holiday it would be on, but you'd have Monday off is the deal with that. So you would have a little Super Bowl day off, something that I know when I was younger, I always wished we had, and that's been a thing that I know a lot of people want, a day off after the Super Bowl, and that's how it would work if it moves to 18 games. So as a fan, I'm partial to this 18-game system. I'm a big fan of how it would line up in the calendar. I'm just worried that they're going to continue to expand, because that's how sports leagues are. Hey, we can get more money by adding more games. Let's do that. I think 18 is the perfect number. I really do. I don't think there's a need to expand it any further than 18, but I think 17 isn't quite it. I like having a nice even number. You have the same amount of home games as road games. That's kind of been thrown off balance in that 17 game thing, and I know they fixed it with their alternating years, but still, it's one of those things that it's nice to have evenness on the schedule when you're talking home and road games for both fans and the business side of teams, make a little money for everybody. But there are some interesting solutions put out there. The Colts seemingly against it, and I understand player arguments. Player injury, they're all about player safety, and I'm all for player safety. The sport is no fun if you don't have people playing it, right? You need these players to be safe, you need them to be healthy, and adding another game just gives you another chance to get hurt, right? And I completely understand that argument. You add another bye week, something that players have been asking for a long time, and Joe Burrow had an interesting discussion about that bye week. You turn every other sports league has a mid-season Pro Bowl, has a mid-season All-Star game. Joe Burrow says, "Hey, why don't we do that? Add a second bye week as that mid-season break." Not sure how that would work. It is an interesting idea. It's not something I'm against. But would you play an actual game there? How would that work? Because if you're giving everybody equal chance to take a break, do these all-star players not get a break anymore? Are they going to have an extra couple days off as well? How is that going to work with their team? So there's a couple of logistics to work out there that I don't think an entire league-wide week off would work. And that's also kind of not how the NFL seems like they want to do it. They want to have games every single week. They want Sunday to be their day. They want Monday to be their day. They want Thursday to be their day. They're taking Saturdays now. They're moving to Fridays. They want the whole week. They want football every single day. And as a fan, I'm not opposed to that. But they are going to, push for this 18 game schedule. And I think it's fine as long as, and this is the big caveat, there is that second bye week. You get situations where players have a week 5 bye week and they play 12 straight games. They make the playoffs, they don't get that bye in the wild card round, and potentially they make it all the way to the Super Bowl. They get another bye week right before the Super Bowl. But if you have a week 5 bye week and you come as a wild card team to the Super Bowl, you play like 15 straight games, and that is not easy on anyone. Injuries are a huge thing in sports, and you never want that to be the main story. But football is such a physical sport that these guys need another break. You can spread it out the same way you do. If you have an 18 game schedule, there's no reason for guys in a regular season of 18 games to be playing more than 5, 6 games in a row. You know, you have 2 bye weeks, it gives players a chance to rest. It gives them a chance to heal up. Better players, healthier players, rested players leads to better products on the field. That's why Thursday night football kind of sucks, because these players aren't rested. They're not able to install a full game plan. They're not able to go all the way out. And you see, that's why players hate Thursday night games, honestly. There's a lot of, pros and cons to these, but it's the same kind of idea with a bye week. I think you can convince NFL players to go to 18 games. And I know there's a lot of players that aren't in favor of 18 games, but it has to have that bye week. You're not getting another game without another bye week. They were able to get it with 17, but you are not getting another one without another bye week, and that is just non-negotiable. For a player, as a fan, I want these players to be able to get the rest, and yes, I want to see football 24/7. I love football, but you have to be realistic here. It's really hard on these players' bodies, and more than wanting to see football, I want to see the best players play football, and this bye week is the best way to get it done. So there's lots of different situations here. I do think that this 18 game season is inevitable. I don't see a world where it doesn't happen. The NFL, it gets what it wants. The NFL is that kind of league. They do what they want, they get what they want, they'll get it eventually. If not now, they'll get it 5 years from now. If not 5 years from now, they'll get it 20 years from now, so on and so forth. They're gonna get this eventually. And I really do think that this is good for the league. My one concern is if they continue to expand. Now, you can get rid of preseason games. That's another thing that players want. And preseason, whatever. That doesn't really do much. We get a little extra football, but it's bad football. Starters play like one drive sometimes. You get a bunch of guys fighting for roster spots, and that's always fun to watch. But the preseason doesn't really matter. People, you don't need you don't need the preseason. It's not that common that injuries happen in the preseason, but they do happen, and it can be devastating. And that's something you want to avoid for games that simply don't matter. But preseason can be gone, but I don't want this league extending past 20 or past 18. Excuse me. And I can very, very realistically see a world where the NFL is like, hey, let's continue to expand until we hit a wall like we do in the NBA. And I know the NBA hasn't expanded and it's kind of a process of just players getting better, but 82 games is too much for that. And you're never going to go down, but it's why the regular season kind of gets deflated in the minds of fans, in the minds of players, in the minds of everyone around the league. That's why that's one of the beautiful things about football. The regular season matters so much. The more you expand the regular season, the more games you add, the less and less these games start to matter. And 18, I think, is the perfect number. If you get to 20, I think you're starting to push it to a point where maybe week 5 against a bad team doesn't matter. You can rest some people that really need to rest. 18, I think, is the biggest number you can have with the way the league is right now. And I don't believe the NFL has the ability to stop itself if this gets passed. And that's the one thing I'm worried about. I hope they know when enough is enough and you got to sit, and sometimes you just got to rest and sit on your hand, This is what you got, this is what you need to deal with. But we'll see what happens in the future. 18 games is inevitable, and I hope that's all it gets to. But anyway, In our next segment, we are going to finish up our NFL coverage, talking a little bit about the Miami Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, and the situation with their contract negotiations. Tua wants a new contract. The Dolphins probably want to give him a new contract. We'll see what happens there. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.